This is a Symphonic model 5400 VHS VCR, OEM Funai. For those that may have not seen my other videos where I talked about this, I have begun collecting vintage Funai VCRs. And people are going to say, what? No. What you don't understand is pre-1992, these VCRs were made in Japan and were very solid performers and very reliable units. And that's what got me into collecting them. It's the polar opposite of the Funai everyone knows. And I had a 1992 Symphonic. It's actually the same one used in Home Alone 2. And unfortunately, even though that was okay, let me back up. That one had their newer mechanism that Funai designed themselves. It was still made in Japan, and it was the last year it was made in Japan. I had one. Unfortunately, even though it was still made in Japan, it was utter junk. It had a switching power supply. I recapped it. It worked, but then the VFD broke somehow, and then the mechanism, something else failed, and I just got rid of it. So they made very good VCRs and went to absolute junk. But 1991 and earlier, their first one was from 1984, and I own that one. That's what got me into it. These are very good machines. The tape transport is made by Shintom, and for all intents and purposes, they were the biggest customer for Shintom, so may as well refer to this mechanism as a Funai mechanism. This Shintom mechanism was also used in other brands, of course, because they were a supplier, including Sony in some of their combination units. But that said, this is a Funai unit. This is the original box, and it does have on-screen display. I want to say this is either a 1987 or 1988 model, and we'll get into that. One dead giveaway you'll have of older, good Funai is it'll be a big cabinet like this. It'll actually have some considerable weight to it too. The transport weighs a ton, and it has a power transformer, not a switching power supply. That's the two dead giveaways. You got a good one. And I gotta get my thoughts together. However, the seller didn't pack it well, and the front cover busted off. There's some of the pieces. I'm gonna try re-gluing it and putting it back on. Idiots. And somehow the box got messed up on it, like it was cut. I'm gonna fix it with some clear tape, because I am keeping the box. So let's get it out and take a look at it. Well, I found the date on it, and it is indeed a 1987. This will have the older Shintom mechanism. I also have the Symphonic 5200, which I may have shown. This has a really cool loading mechanism. It sounds really cool when it starts up. It's really heavy duty. This one actually weighs a lot more, as I found when I picked it up and moved it. I'm just looking for any other info, but this apparently came out of Pennsylvania, right there. Here's a better side of the box. I'm gonna try to repair it. And well, here is the damage from the idiot seller. Luckily, they were still in the box, so I should be able to re-glue it back on. Everything else appears to be okay still. But because it fell off, This was not like this in the original photos. This got horribly scratched up. So I contacted the seller to see what they'll do. I'm not returning it. I just want some form of compensation because they goofed. Very poor packing material.
Yeah, cue the response right here from Radio TV Phononut about eBay shippers.
Yes. Well, here is the unit as is. And it also has an edit switch for when dubbing tapes. I'll get into that later. Another thing is this has an aluminum cover here, pretty good spring on it. So let's go ahead and get this thing apart. I bought this saying not working for parts. I know what it is, just belts, and we'll get right into that. All right, and here's the back of the unit. Made in Japan, 32 watts. Has twin lead terminals for UHF, VHF, your RF modulator, and AV in and out. Okay, and here's the underneath of the chassis here. It's definitely the older mechanism. It uses an outboard motor, and all the original belts uses like, let's see, 2 flat belts and this belt here to drive it are all in good shape. The only thing on these Shinton mechanisms, since this uses an outboard motor, this bottom bearing will need some grease on it. Some symptoms you'll get when it needs lubrication is it'll sound like it's struggling to rewind or fast forward, or when you rewind the tape and it hits the end, it goes try to advance it past the leader, it'll not move, then fault out. And it may also result in speed irregularities and stuff. So we just put some grease in there. I'll show that later, but we're gonna try to see what it does right now. There's only one more belt, and it's right here. And they all seem to be tight, which is good. They just probably could, I'll clean them with my rubber cleaner, reuse them. So I'm gonna get my test jig and throw it in and see what it does. I'll flip it over first. All right, here is the inside of the mechanism. Everything looks clean. I took the air compressor to it just now. These use a dual idler setup, like this. Good linear power supply with a big transformer in it. So let's go ahead and plug it in and see what it does. Well, the display is rather dim, but it could also be very dirty. I've seen it so many times. All right, so let's see what this thing does. Power on. I got the display. Let's see, it's on extended play. Where's the speed switch? Oh, okay, here we go. Standard play, long play, extended play. My test jig in here. Yeah, the belt's slipping. That's what that is. So we're gonna have to take the belts out. I do have a lot of replacement flat belts, so that's probably what our next steps are gonna be. All right, all the belts are off and they're all egg-shaped and not grippy. Now, I do have a method where I would boil these, then put my rubber rejuve on it. However, I have all these in stock, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clean the pulleys and put new belts in this. It has a nice heavy flywheel. The lubrication seems to be fine, but we're gonna fix that anyways. See, it's freewheeling now because nothing's hooked to it, so that's pretty well lubricated still. The other Symphonic I got, the 5200, it worked fine when I got it, but then it started having issues. I found out this was seizing up because this bottom bearing needed greased. So that's really all I'm finding, but as you can see, it's a real well laid out mechanism. It uses a loading ring to load pull the loading arms up. Okay, all brand new belts installed. Took probably 5 minutes. Here's all the old ones, look egg-shaped and sad. Now this is that bottom bearing I was mentioning. See, normally it just kind of sits in place. There's a clip on top of it, prevents it from moving down, but it is a little nylon piece, and something. And usually you just do this. We'll use my other hand here. I keep a syringe with lithium grease in. That's how I'll lubricate all these delicate pieces. Squeeze it, put a dab on like that, and that's it. And I had to take this piece off anyway to put a belt on, so I might as well do it while you're in here. All right, round 2. Let's see if the new belts helped. No. Interesting. I don't know what is going on. Okay, this is what it was. I forgot about the loading motor belt, which completely turned to goo, as you can see by that shiny crap on there. So let's get it cleaned off and get a new belt on there. Well, that belt turned completely to goo. That's what happened to my fingers here. I'm trying to clean it off with alcohol, but I did it. So let's get another belt on there. All right, round 2, new belt on loading motor. Okay, eject. Yeah, this other thing about these, this Shintel mechanism, it's very quiet when it loads. If Harley would be quiet for a second.
No.
Okay, hang on. Eject. Let's eject. Very soft, very... That, now let's hit play. And nothing happens. Yep. All right, so this is the status now. The problem was the lights were interfering with the end tape sensors. So here it is now. And this has one of the coolest loading startup sounds between the head spinning up and the loading motor. And the Funai blinking play light. Let's see what we have. Tape counter. Reset. Memory. Quick time record. Channel up and down. All the tuner controls. This is the tracking. Now this display actually is rather dim, so this thing was probably plugged in for more than a decade, probably 15 plus years, so maybe more. But I am going to clean up. It may actually wake up. It's just like a CRT. It doesn't get used for a while. It will go to sleep. So let's just step through the buttons. I already tested this prior to. Everything's nice and strong. This is your fast forward search. And that tube's nice and strong. Rewind search. Oh, I hit stop instead. Well, there's your stop. Here's play again. Now, here's rewind search. With the reverse blinking play light. Now, because the other reel's not turning, it thinks there's a fault. So it just, see, it's blinking there. So power back on. We'll hit, let's do fast forward. Might be a little noisy because there's no tape on there. Stop. And it should fault out. Yep, because there's no tape spinning. So I have a test tape here, so we'll just throw it in, see how the mechanism works. All right, I finished everything else. I cleaned the heads and tape path, demagnetized the audio head, and it has that nice blue screen. And it does do this kind of thing though that Panasonics used to do. Just like that. So, now what we're going to do, put in a pre-recorded tape. Load it. Now, how does it perform? Again, surprisingly well. Even better than a Panasonic. This is a two-head machine. The video quality is phenomenal. The audio quality, even though it's a linear machine, is phenomenal. That's why I'm fascinated by these older decks, these older Funai decks. They're just the polar opposite of what we're used to. The 1992 and later ones, of course, you know, had a real soft, smeary picture. This doesn't. And it also somehow has a phenomenal extended play speed. Every one of my Funai decks do. And standard play speed. And the other thing I'm really odd about it is the special effects on this, or, you know, search functions. It's a two-head unit, but like on extended play, and you do it does 5 and 15x on extended play, okay? When you hit 5x, there's like no noise bars in the picture at all. It's really weird. And for a two-head on standard play, it's pretty good. I have a 4-head unit in the bedroom I need to demonstrate in another video, where you do Q function on standard play, and there's only like one noise bar in the picture, and it's barely visible. It's like almost perfectly clear. I mean, these are very unique machines, I'll tell you that. Here, I'm gonna hit play, and I'll zoom up here on TV. Let me adjust the, there we go. And let's hit play.
The Powerpuff Girls are moments away from their demise. Hey, bad guys, wake up and smell the Utonium. The Powerpuff Girls are back in 2 brand new videos, Dream Scheme and Birthday Bash. Hey, what's that? Enjoy your birthday, for it will be your last.
Come on, girls!
Yes, just when you think the universe is safe, it's Dexter!
Good boy, save the future!
In his first movie, Dexter's Ego Trip. Get these and other hot-selling videos on video cassette and DVD.
Careful, Bubbles, your ego is shown. What? Where?
In stores everywhere. Add them to your collection today.
Good idea.
From Cartoon Network and Warner Home Video.
Your stop. Just because I sprayed the Deoxit on all the push buttons up here. There are a couple that were like the rewind button, it wouldn't respond right away. I had to press it a few times. And that's just the same as a dirty switch or pot. 33, 34 years later, it just needed a little cleaning. Yeah, that's all I did to it. Nothing different than any other, but you'd be really surprised how well these older Funais work. I certainly am. So now let's we'll start putting it back together. I always put a coat of Novus on this on the VFD and on the filter on the case. It's on the front cover itself. All right, one last thing I had to do. If you look at the original pinch roller, how it's just full of cracks, it was getting a bunch of speed irregularities and it sounded terrible. So I was able to obtain a identical Funai, vintage Funai replacement pinch roller with no cracks. So that fixed the problem. But yeah, this happens, depending on how it was stored, etc. But yeah, the cracks are causing it to split, and not where the tape rides, but the parts, you know, you can see where the tape rides, but on the outer parts up against the pinch roller, it was causing the speed to fluctuate. Probably not making good enough grip with the tape. Put the new one in. It is used out of a machine I'm dedicating as a parts machine to save these ones. I just took some 400 grit sandpaper to it and wiped it down. Now it's like brand new. No cracks in that one. I just tried a tape and it sounded perfect. So that was an easy fix again. And one thing you'll notice with the older good VCRs is they'll have an impedance roller right here, that big white thing. They were omitted on newer machines on pretty much all makes and models, except for top of the line stuff or prosumer and stuff. It's there for a reason. It helps keep the tape a lot more stable, as in, like, if you have an older TV from the 70s and you always get that flagging at the top due to an unstable time base, this actually helps smooth that out quite a big deal. But as you get into the 90s, it was omitted on a lot of machines because by then people were using newer TVs that had the horizontal, horizontal circuits been adapted to handle unstable time bases from VCRs better. But this is also important when you get a dub tapes. You don't get any problems with that either. So again, another good design cue there. So now I'm going to hit stop. Well, it's been a couple weeks before I got to this, but here it is, all restored. And the VFD woke up nicely. It's been plugged in for all this time, and that's all it needed was just to wake back up, just like a CRT does. Nice and bright again. And with cleaning it on the inside with Novus, nice and sharp from the outside too. So we'll go over some of the functions on the front. Remote sensor there, that's square, power eject. The record switch is separated like that, I like that. Aluminum cover there. The edit switch. Interesting, this is how it works, just like on anything else, like, you'd see from, say, JVC or Panasonic or Sony or whatever during a time. All the edit switch does is turn off. It works the opposite way thing. You turn it on, it actually turns off a lot of post-processing on the video image, like noise filters, sharpness controls, etc. And you flip it on, the edit switch on the other VCR for recording. And what this does, it prevents generational loss when dubbing tapes. Because, like, if you keep filtering it each time, you're going to get a lot of loss on that. And that kind of helps that. There's probably more to it than what I'm mentioning, but that's the gist of it right there. So it's pretty neat that this is, a little 2-head unit, but it has that. But even then, the picture quality is just fantastic. The tracking control right there. On the indent, input select for tuner and AV. So you can flip it up. That turns off, goes the AV line in. And I showed this before, but there's your tape speed, SP, LP. And on these older ones, they call them EP instead of SLP. And timer record, program check, select. And it does have a 110 channel tuner. And by default, it's not programmed. You can program it. There's your tuner preset controls. So just like that. And as well as when you're changing it on screen. I really like how these older ones did that. Also, the on-screen display is full 480i equivalent to. It actually is interlaced, unlike the newer ones where they just made it, you know, equivalent to 240p. There was that double strike method like the older video game systems used. So that's nice. It doesn't do that. It's real smooth. So yeah, you can program the whole thing from the front of the unit and also using the VFD display. And here's the original remote. Came with the unit. And you can program everything, including the clock, from here. And the remote is even made in Japan on this. Now, before I get into all that, you can totally program this whole thing from the front panel here. So also by default, the tuner does this. It has 32 preset stations. This was typical during the time. I got Sony betas that you still have to program them like that. So it's still early. I believe they made this model from 86 through 88. So 86, if on-screen display, was early for that. But another thing I was going to show was, in addition to using the remote control for programming, you can still use the front buttons here up front. Like I'll hit program check. You can program this whole thing completely by the vacuum fluorescent display. But in addition, it has that. And oddly, you press the select button to initiate clock programming. Now, in terms of collecting these older Funai decks, there's Funai. What I'm mainly trying to concentrate on is Funai and Symphonic, because like Panasonic, you had Panasonic and Quasar. They were the same machine, but differences between the two, but they're still within the same. They're not a rebadge, basically, is what I'm getting at. However, I do have some clones, rebadges, whatever you want to call them, for Funai, and given how hard these are sort of to come by, I just take them in regardless. But what's the differences here with the Symphonic 5400 and 5200? Over there's my 5200, which I'll do in another video. That one's the absolute base model. It still performs fantastically, but no on-screen display, uses Vector diode tuning, and just some other differences, and I'll get into that in another video. But it's from the same model years. The 5300 is basically this VCR, but without on-screen display. And the thing is, this is during a time when VCRs were not throwaway devices. They still cost a pretty penny. That's why you still had many options like 2-head, 4-head, 4-head with linear stereo and Dolby B, 4-head hi-fi stereo, on-screen display, no on-screen display, the tuner, different tuner options. It's all cost because these were expensive, but yet they still work. That's what people today don't understand. They just want everything at once. They don't care if it lasts a year or two, and then they throw it out. Yeah, you're the ones creating the e-waste. You know, make such a big deal about that. Yeah, that's right. Show that Made in China pride. Anyways, so that's the tour of the front of the unit. And I may have shown the back already, but I got some things hooked up here. You know, line level AV in and out. 75 ohm coax for cable TV and VHF, and twin lead for UHF. It's still old enough where it has all that. So right now, let's just take a look at the manual for this. There's some information someone wrote on there. HQ is still a brand new thing. It was only like a year or two old when this came out, which is actually a pretty big improvement on VHS. VHS, regular VHS, you know, it's light years ahead of that, I'll be honest with you. And meanwhile, during that time, if you had a VHS HQ compared to a Super Beta unit, the Super Beta far succeeded. The Super Beta actually got the equivalent horizontal resolution of broadcast TV. Not to be confused with Super VHS and Extended Definition Beta. They call them different things. But that said, you know, I'm a beta guy at heart, but I still love my VHS because, you know, that was my 90s era. I've always been fascinated by other people's VCRs and the differences, the mechanisms, how they sound, you know, how the picture's reproduced, just everything. And it does have a do indicator as well, another thing from the 80s VCRs. And this is very easy to service. Yes, it has 5 belts total, but this is the first time the belts ever had been changed on it. During its original lifetime back in the day, it would not have need changed. Besides, when I changed it, it took a whole 5 minutes to do it. But aside from the belts, these are a very reliable machine. From what I recall reading, these are right underneath Panasonic for reliability, and I think it was the belts that did it. But, you know, all those belts make it nice and quiet and smooth. Oh, yeah, and given the era this is from, it has a channel chart for TV and cable TV, and it lists the frequencies of each. Pretty nice. See, there's your presetting channels. Okay, it looks like channels 2 through 13 are preset at the factory, but the rest you can set, which is typical. I mean, this is better than my Sony betas I had. They only had a 14 channel memory. I'm just giving a quick looky-loo through this. Yeah, it even shows you the VFD display and the on-screen display for that. And every one of these Funai VCRs I've been collecting, all I needed was new belts. Nothing else. They all just work. These are, like I said, the polar opposite of what we're used to. How to program it. And then there's your dubbing. And it mentions the edit switch in here, but it doesn't go into detail technically what it does, but I know what it does. And it does have 2-step picture search, 5x storing standard play, and 5 and I know extended play is 5 and 15x. I forget what long play is. I never really use long play because long play is not really an official speed on VHS. It was just added. And besides, the heads aren't calibrated for that. 2 heads, you know, I mean, that's tricky because then you get the VCRs with double azimuth and the special effects head. It's not the same thing, but originally 2 heads were for standard play, 2 heads for extended play for exact tracking. I have some early 80s units like that, and the picture quality is fantastic because it uses the full track width on standard play. Oh, wait, what am I saying? The 1984 Funai right here is a standard play only rental machine, and its heads are optimized for full track width on standard play. So yeah, that one kicks ass too. I forgot I'm talking like that. That's I mean, I did a video on this once. We're gonna revisit it because I'm about to go on a Funai vintage Funai VCR marathon here soon. So I mean, I got more. Actually, I have more I'm gonna be restoring soon. And I'm going to actually do videos, you know, where I'll get into detail about servicing it, so you can watch every little detail on that and list the specifications here. And then there's the back. So yeah, not very well known, but it's a very solid machine. I love them. That's why I love them. Now let's demonstrate this. So first we're going to demonstrate a thing I recorded, tape ending. The tape was completed on 12/31/00. Recorded on a cheap Zenith Gold Star from 1996 with hi-fi stereo. This is on a hi-fi unit. So obviously the linear audio on those was crap, but this does a good job correcting that. First we'll insert the tape. Nice. Other thing I did, and I did off camera, I greased the spindles on here, so they're nice and quiet now. Here's turn the tape counter on, and here's fast forward.
Dashing and daring, courageous and true, faithful and friendly with stories to share. The forest they sing out in chorus, marching along as their song fills the air. Gummy bears, bouncing here and there and everywhere. Hiding friends beyond compare. They are the gummy bears.
Like I said, this was recorded on a real crappy Zenith Gold Star with that speakeasy main menu. For time of programming, press 1.
Speakeasy main menu. To set the clock, press 1. To set the record timer, press 2. To set up the tuner and VCR features, press 3. To set up audio features, press 4. To exit, press quit.
But that was up my aunt and uncle's house when I was pet sitting for them. This was recorded off of a satellite dish. So, obviously, you know, we're going to record something off the air on this. So this is extended play. Gotta fix that. There we go. That's one of the things I love about these Funais, or like the little blinking play light there. And also like how it turns off the tuner display when it's playing a tape. Now hang on, I'm going to hit stop. Yeah, I really like how that did that. We'll go back into play mode and we'll watch it on the screen here.
Of course. It's probably just from some bashful subject.
Well, let's open it up, shall we?
Yep. Autofocus is goofing here. But here's fast forward search on extended play. Very clear, as you can see. And then we'll do 15x by holding the button in. And there's 5x. Here's play. That's pause. It does have the noise cancel function of early 80s units where it just very slowly moves the tape till you get a noise-free image. It's just hard to do on there, that's pretty clear. But yeah, just a 2-head unit here. And let's do this. We're going to hit stop. Very smooth. Here's rewind. And again, that noise is a tape typical of late 90s, early 2000s to the end tapes. Okay. So there's a demonstration of that. Now here's a standard play tape recorded on the same VCR from July 22nd, 2000 when it was completed. Cool. Advanced it past the leader there. So here we go again. Gotta adjust tracking. There we go.
You're in the land of words, we're having twice the fun, 'cause every single thing is really 2 in 1. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, and when you add it up, you get a
right, so now let's stop this. Here's eject. So anyways, the linear audio on this machine is also a phenomenal performer. And going well with the great picture quality, it's a double winner there. Usually by a late age, a lot of linear audio VCRs didn't sound that great. But no, not this one. This one sounds, here we go.
Hang on to your eyeballs, hot shot.
Now, this TV is from 1980, and it's right when VCRs were still a brand new thing. It doesn't particularly like search functions on two-head VCRs that much. It tends to throw it out of sync a little bit, but you'll get an idea of how good this thing does search functions. Just ignore like the flashing otherwise, because that's just the TV, but that's the only noise bar you get on 5X. It's still very clear for a two-head VCR. And then you have pause, which ain't bad for a two-head VCR again. This just works. So let's... Alright, so let's do a quick record test through the line level AV inputs of the news right here, and standard play. I really like how they did this right here. All right, let's see how this came out.
Widely separated flurries and light snow showers into tomorrow evening, and then things will begin to
This is the first recording I've done on this machine yet.
Monday morning. So for tonight, 30 degrees, cloudy, a snow shower or two, probably for the next hour or two. Steady temperatures overnight. Then for tomorrow, the high temperature 36, mostly cloudy, few flurries, little or no accumulation expected tomorrow. On Monday, more of the same. 34 degrees with scattered flurries. 34 Tuesday.
Looks like the Steelers will stay in-house for their offensive coordinator hire. All the NFL news coming up on Pittsburgh's Action Sports.
Oh yeah, the linear audio on this is great.
This is Courtney Perno with another reason to love Bet Rivers. You can tell a good online casino by its play reward system. And
All right, now we're gonna do extended play.
I walked into this car,
Record.
gave him a kiss, and a little gift. And then,
So we'll come back in a little bit and check it out.
a baton.
I did an extended play recording, and you've got to be kidding me. This has got to be one of the best extended play recordings I've seen and heard. The linear audio is, I give it an A++. What the hell? This thing's that's full of surprises. I mean, no kidding. Let me focus in on the TV here. Come on. There we go. So here we go. Hit play. This is from the same thing I was just playing here, mind you. Now, this is extended play.
Is this to the dawn?
Yes. Yes, I wrote something on here. Something personal that he would appreciate.
The upper frequency response is good on this. You heard when I played that Gummy Bears clip off that Gold Star Zenith from the late 90s. It was not impressive. This sounds decent for extended play. This is great.
Actually, last night's concert was to be his first time.
Why is that?
He was under the control of Crawford for so long.
I can't wait now to get this forehead high five Funai I'm looking for. I'll insert a picture here with the model number. That's my next goal. I mean, it has everything on it, like, you know, adjustable audio levels and everything, and separate VU meters, and I want it. I want it. This VCR, these Funai VCRs just don't stop impressing me. Even though the audio still sounds full range. I mean, not all the way, of course, but I mean...
Sharks, ghosts, robots, aliens, death probes, Sasquatch, and these guys. It isn't easy being bionic. The $6 Million Man, weekdays on Cozy TV.
These past few months haven't been easy, but they've reminded us.
Well, I can say I highly recommend these older Funais. Let's see how search does on them. Tape recorded on its own. That's forward search, 5x. Here's 15x. Pause. Picture perfect. That's amazing. What a great machine. That's why I love it. I'm glad I started doing this. All right. Well. Oh yeah, and I did not show. There's the little channel preset thingy here. I'll flip this up. That's right, I had memory set. I was trying to rewind the whole tape. Turn memory off, and... Alright, like I said, I can't say enough good things about it. I'm going to keep collecting, finding out, researching, and find out more about these older units. And before ending this video, I'd like to throw out a buyer beware on eBay regarding this VCR. So stay tuned. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Hit like and subscribe.